For many people who live in Gaza, one of the things that plagues the country is with socialism, you always have to find someone to steal, someone's labor to steal, to basically move the wealth up to a small number of people. And so, in different areas, there are many people in different regions of the globe, that are in essence enslaved. And the people who live in Gaza are in essence slaves to the United States. And of course, they're looked over by Israel. Now, the people that live in this region are heavily manipulated by the Western government. And so the reason why you see this back and forth backlash is because most of these people who live in this area in the Gaza Strip are very young. Overwhelmingly, they all live in poverty, in abstract poverty. 80% of the inhabitants require aid, which is just basically welfare, and welfare typically keeps people in poverty. It says the unemployment rate in Gaza is 47%, and it says here more than 80% of its population live in poverty. And so obviously that is going to drive some people who basically have no way out to fight back against their oppressors. And they look at Israel as their oppressor because they're the closest thing to the United States that many of these people can get to. And this is why you see a lot of Arabs fight against Saudi Arabia, because they're the closest that they can get to the United States, who is really the oppressor in this situation. And so I was talking about yesterday how the United States uses this nonsense of a lot of the funding for terrorism, especially when it comes to Israel, is funded through Iran, that gets to Hamas, and they're responsible for the terrorism. But as I've showed previously, that much of the funding to Iran comes from the United States. I showed that when Barack Obama was in office, he sent millions of dollars. And just recently, the United States had something like a $6 billion deal that would go to Iran. And of course, then the narrative is that, oh, how is this all this funding? Well, isn't Iran the one who's responsible? And then, well, why are you sending the money? And this is why I said that when you look at the terrorism across many of these parts of the country, like in Israel, it is sponsored by the United States. And so it says here, the United States, of course, is investing whether Iran gave advanced training to Hamas militants, right? And so this is the narrative, that Iran is the one who is responsible for funding and training all these people. And this is the map of Iran, right? This is Iran right here. And all these stars are U.S. military bases. So Iran is completely surrounded by the United States militarily. In essence, they're occupied, right? The United States is occupying the land. And of course, these people constantly go to war with Saudi Arabia because America protects Saudi Arabia, so that Saudi Arabia sells oil in the dollar. And this is how America is able to maintain the global hegemony, by keeping these people enslaved in the middle. And these people consistently go to war with the prince in Saudi Arabia, because they're in essence propped up by the United States. They become very wealthy. The people, of course, are driven into poverty. And of course, this gives America the narrative of funding, right? They fund Iran. Supposedly, this is what they say, that money is going into Iran. That money is then being utilized to support terrorism in other areas. And I'm like, well, the country is completely surrounded by military bases. On any given day, you have tens of thousands of military personnel that are keeping, in essence, these people in check. Iran is basically a police state occupied by the United States military. And then, of course, the United States uses propaganda here to the people, right? This is where you see young people talking about we need to free the people from Gaza, not realizing that the people that they're asking to help free the people in Gaza are the people who are, in essence, keeping them enslaved, which is the United States. And this is why I say that we live under a global communist at the top, socialism for the people, because the wealth of the people is constantly being redistributed back to the top. And this is why you see, military aid that flows into one place. They're just basically washing the money. We're going to give you that money. You're going to send that money back to our corporations, and we're going to fund you militarily. This is the same thing that's going on under Europe. Europe is a heavily occupied, militarily speaking, country. This is why they're not free to kind of do as they please, and they're basically just become vassal states of the United States. And a lot of people don't understand globally what's going on and what's been going on for such a long time. This is not something that is new. And so you're in essence, for a lot of these people who are like, we need the United States government to do something, you're in essence asking the people who are oppressing these nations to free them, thinking that they're your salvation. And this is why you see this whole narrative of Muslims versus, the state of Israel, Ukraine versus Russia, China. Oh, China's our enemy. It's all nonsense. It's all the United States. It's all the United States. The United States is responsible for the vast majority of terrorism among their own people and among people around the globe. They just use certain countries as vassals. Most of these countries are slave states to the United States. Like, for example, Iran, heavily occupied country. Just look at Europe. Just look at Israel. Just look at Gaza. And this is, in essence, what is going on at this time.